I didn't set out to build a pet care brand that would become a global brand. I had power suits, the high flyer life, and on the weekend I was hustling guinea pig cages. I feel like I'm in a staircase and I'm going from step to step. I do not know where it ends, and that's actually really beautiful. And I've been asked, why do you want more? And I'm like, am I asking you why your eyes are blue? I feel like in academia, if you're in, you're in. And if you want to walk away, you're walking away for life.
Speaking personally, you're leaving the cult.
You're leaving the cult. The world is so much bigger.
Hello, I'm Eloise Finch. Welcome to Tell Beyond, the podcast that asks extraordinary people to share their unfiltered, uplifting stories from life and business to lift you up and help you rethink what's possible. In this edition of Tell Beyond, I'm talking to Clem Schoutenden, founder and CEO of Cavi. From France to the UK, from academia to entrepreneurship, from a side hustle to a global pet care brand. Clem's story is about transformation. Welcome, Clem.
Welcome, thank you.
You strike me as a very practical businesswoman, perhaps not given to nostalgia. How do you feel about a reflective conversation?
I really love it. I think being able to reflect is what brought me where I am, and it's a big part of my transformation.
Interesting. Okay, let's explore that a bit more. Let's talk a little bit about your background. Mm-hmm. It was near Calais. You were born near Calais in France?
That's right. I was born and raised in a very, very stable, simple family. There wasn't much moving around or nothing that I think could have predicted what my life could become. And
was it a village or a small town?
It was a rural area, yes. It was a very lovely childhood in a rural area, and very French. The food was amazing, and
was there cheese?
Lots of cheese and the best seafood because we're by the coast, and yeah, it was a really lovely time, and yeah.
What's your place in the family order?
So it's two girls and a boy. So I'm the middle one, the oldest daughter, and I have a little brother, and my dad wanted a son, right? So when I came along and I'm a girl, there was a bit of a, I would not say disappointment, but my parents were like, we're going to try for another kid. So I felt like funny enough, I was kind of a toy boy, and I was really interested in like DIY and fishing and jumping on trees and all this kind of
the tomboy girl.
I was the tomboy girl. I was very confident as a kid, probably too confident. And I think because my parents were like, oh, it's a girl, so she's going to be a bit more, calm and nurturing and things. And then my brother, as it turns out, is more calm than I am. I felt like we kind of swapped the expectations on our gender. So yeah, I think like at some point, especially as I grew older, my parents were like, you have to try and do less, or you have to be more careful, or you have to take less risk, or
interesting.
And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not sure that's what I want to do.
I'm not sure that's going to work out.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've described both your brother and sister in interviews as neurodivergent, whereas you enjoyed school and homework.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was a bit different in the sense of I never felt, I felt confident in environments where my siblings didn't. I guess it was a relief for my parents because they didn't have to worry about me not liking school, or I was doing my homework and more homework because I liked it, while they had to struggle with my siblings to get them to do anything. So I think for me it gave me lots of freedom, and it gave me a sense of I can go on and knowing that I can just I felt like they kind of trusted me.
That's a nice feeling.
They trusted me with early on. They were like, she's gonna be fine. She's good. Yeah.
What interested you as a little girl?
So many things. I think I was very interested in stories, in fact. Like I was very imaginative, and I was very much into writing stories and imagining stories, writing books, reading books. I always had a fascination for animals. This is something you can't engineer. Like as a kid, I wanted a dog very, very early on, and my parents were like, you're not getting a dog.
Oh.
But you're going to get all the other things, all the other pets you can get.
So what other pets
So
did
I
you get?
literally had all the other pets. So I had a hamster, fish, tortoise, guinea pigs, rabbits, a cat eventually. It was very dog-like, so that was okay.
Poor cat.
Yeah, but they were like, wow, she really, really, really likes animals. And they could not keep me away from animals, not remotely.
So part of your interior world was the life of stories and writing and creativity and thinking.
Yeah.
And then part was something the here and now. Animals are here and now. They're immediate.
Yeah.
They need things.
Yeah, it was a lot about nature and animals. My dad is a big nature lover, so he would take us, to the woods and foraging for mushrooms and fishing on the coast and the beach. So I was very exposed to nature, and the natural world became a fascination. But I also always had like a very rich inner world where I was always inventing stories and inventing characters and inventing fiction. Like there was that part was very much going on as well.
What were the expectations of your parents for this middle child that enjoyed going to school and kind of could look after herself?
Yeah, I think the expectations were that I would get a good job, that I would, make a good living. Nothing exceptional. I think they recognized at some point I was pushing further than what they wanted me to. I wanted to go out earlier. I wanted to grow up quickly. And they were like, no, you're not, you're not wearing makeup at 10, you're not wearing high heels at 8. And they were like trying to like slow me down. And I feel like they were trying to push me towards a good life, maybe something that felt too average for me at the time. And I felt like I had to leave and free myself from that expectation of this is good.
There is some kind of mold that they had a mold that you should fit into this type of thing, but you wanted that type of thing.
Yeah, and it wasn't clear to me like what I wanted. In fact, it hasn't been clear. I think I'll say it isn't clear. It isn't clear even today. It's becoming clearer and clearer, but I didn't set out to build a pet care brand that would become a global brand, that might become something else. That I feel like I'm in a staircase and I'm going from step to step, and it makes sense in my mind. I understand why I'm taking the steps, but I do not know where it ends, and that's actually really beautiful. So it's not like they have put me in front of an option and I say absolutely not. They were like, you can explore, you can, and I always had ideas of what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to study biology to the highest possible level because I was passionate. So I went for a PhD. And as a parent, you're like, yeah, that's great, it's wonderful. Like, you're not going to put off your kid from going after a PhD. But I think they were like, why are you leaving academia? Then why are you leaving? And I was like, it's just not right now. It has, it has fulfilled me. That experience has fulfilled me, but I'm not committing to it for life. So it wasn't like an active rejection of things. It was more like a story of following my instincts and expanding and identifying what and where I belong and what feels right.
Identifying what and where you belong.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I feel like there's a bit of a theme around trying to not belong, in fact. In fact, that's, I think, what I'm trying to say. I felt like I didn't want to... I have come across communities and groups and professional identities, and nothing wrong with, being a researcher, and nothing wrong being a business consultant, but at the time I felt like it didn't provide me with enough freedom and enough degree of agency over my life.
Sounds like you don't want to commit to one interpretation of how you are.
I want to commit to walking my path. I think that is what I want to commit to, in fact. I have committed to my business for 8 years, and that was a tough one. Much tougher than the PhD or anything, in fact. But I think I don't want to commit to something that do not feel aligned, and I don't want to lose control over my ability to change things if they're not working for me. I think that's important. And I feel like in academia, especially in academia, in fact, if you're in, you're in. And if you want to walk away, you're walking away for life. It's really hard to come.
Speaking personally, you're leaving the cult.
You're leaving the cult. And I was like, look guys, love you, love science, love everything, but I cannot commit to this right now. I feel like the world is so much bigger. And it's almost like lifting the veil and realizing, oh my God, there's all these incredible things in life.
And it doesn't include footnotes.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're 25, you're like, why would I think there's a degree of like wanting to explore and being curious and
were your parents interested in learning? Was continual learning something, a value that was important for them?
Yes, I think so. My mom retrained. She had 3 kids, and then she retrained, and she picked up a completely new career. And I think she's very resourceful, and I can see that in me. But I think they are still a bit limited by, I think, what I call the French mindset of, if you're trained as an accountant, well done, you're going to be an accountant for the rest of your life. And it feels risky and even wrong to wish something different for yourself, in fact.
Well, let's be honest, it is risky.
Yeah, it is, yeah. But
you're smiling, you like that risk.
For me, it's funny because when I reflect about my life, I think the risk is really to stay in a situation that is not right for you. And I've never walked away from something being like, oh my God, it would have been easier to stay. Because it would have not been, for me, it would have not been easier to stay in a place that wasn't making me happy. So the effort of like trying again, starting from scratch, learning and failing, but then learning again, I think that was, in fact, less risky in some ways.
That's really interesting. As a teenager, you said that you threw yourself into your studies. At that period in your life, were you quite solitary, a very studious type of person?
I think so, yes. I had maybe 1 or 2 very good friends, but I loved my books, I loved my pets, I loved my bedroom. I just loved being in my head, I guess, yeah.
And if you were to go back to your younger self, maybe as that kid with wanting the dog, or maybe as a teenager in your bedroom studying, and have an important conversation and maybe pass down some wisdom, what would you say?
I think I would say trust yourself a lot more, in fact, because I've always felt like I feel like I have shared so many beliefs and expectations that were put on me. But the more I have this realization about how much I've left behind or, push aside, the more I'm like, oh, there's still so much more. There's still so much more I need to kind of challenge. Does that make sense? Like consciously or unconsciously, I'm like, oh, yes, I left that one behind. But how about this one? Like how much more I'm still like being compliant with that really doesn't quite align.
Well, having done a PhD myself and have some understanding of some of the processes you've been through, if you're going through exams and you're going through academics in university, and especially for a PhD, you're trying to excel in a very clear
structure
box. You're growing in your knowledge and it's interesting, but it's a very structured kind of world, exams and academia. And it sounds like with hindsight you realise that you were in a structure, but maybe you could have broken out of that sooner.
Yeah, and I think I was given a very simple formula, which is you go in that structure, you succeed, you'll be fine. And I was like, what if I don't succeed? What if I don't want to be there? Can I still be fine? And that's kind of what I was trying to kind of explore and solve for myself. And the more I explore, the more I'm like, yes, I can be fine. I can be fine a million different ways, in fact. I can be fine and my life can look very, very different from, like, the more I challenge myself to not walk the beaten path, and the more I'm actually happier, I think.
You took to being a student and went for an academic path for a while, and you did a master's in bioscience, PhD in genetics. It took you from France to Singapore, San Diego and California, Austria. Can you describe the feeling of switching from being a woman in France to a woman in Austria to a woman in the USA?
Yeah, it's a very good point. As a woman, each country and each culture will have expectations on what your life should look like, especially as a young woman. And I felt that very strongly in France, where I've always felt like, I think the strongest I felt it is in France, and maybe because it is my home country. And for a long time I felt like my life would start when I would stop having fun. You know, does that make sense? As in, like, I had to settle. I had to, you know, get married and have a family and stop being an entrepreneur, because it is risky and volatile as a career. And so I felt like I was granted some years to have fun and do a few things, but it will have to end at some point. And that is something I'm challenging, in fact. So yeah.
When you were studying in Vienna, which is in Austria, was there an Austrian persona? You're French, but you're now in a different culture. Mm-hmm. What type of freedoms did that give you, or constraints?
Lots of freedom, in fact, lots of freedom. Because when you're a foreigner, you can position yourself as someone who doesn't know or pretend not to know
pretend not to
know what's expected of you in a certain society. And I have definitely leveraged that. And it feels very good, in fact, to be like, no, I'm French. I'm not supposed to, you know, get married by 30 and having a first cat, and, you know, and doing all the things that are expected of me. Yeah.
How seriously did you envisage an academic career? Because as you're going through the PhD, it's washing around that you should do this and get this publication, and then there's this person, you should do a fellowship. And how seriously did you consider it?
I mean, everything I do, I take it very seriously. So it's not like I went into academia and I had in mind that I would leave. I was genuinely exploring it. I have observed, you know, the lives of people.
Describe that for people that haven't been in that milieu.
You travel a lot. It's 4 years in one country, and then you move to another country. There's not many labs or positions that you can apply to. It's fairly draining on your personal life. It's a very prescribed path. So you go from PhD to postdoc to maybe one day being a professor. And it felt like, I think that part didn't bother me too much. I think what bothered me was the day-to-day. Like, when I was in science, it felt like I was asked to focus on a very, very small thing for a very, very long time. And I think I'm the exact opposite, in fact. Like, I want to focus on things that are fairly high level.
Big things very quickly.
Big things very quickly, exactly, which is a very different way of working. And that's exactly what I did. I left and was recruited by McKinsey. And I was asked to, you know, support a business strategy in 6 weeks, and I was like, yeah, of course, we'll do that. Like,
so what did you have to leave behind? I'm imagining you were in microsciences, so you were spending time in the lab with lab mates and research groups.
Yeah.
What did you have to leave behind going from that academic laboratory-based culture to McKinsey? What did you have to put aside and say, I can't have that part of me anymore?
I think there's a prestige associated with academia. People are like, you're very smart and this is the highest possible level, and there's some sort of I think I had to put aside my ego and be like, you know what, yes, I'm not going to do that. And in fact, for a long time I didn't refer to my PhD. A lot of people didn't know I have a PhD.
What do you think it would have said about you? What were you afraid of?
I didn't want to be seen as someone who is rigid. I didn't want to be seen as unapproachable. I didn't want to be seen as an academic or a scientist because I do not define myself like that. I am truly, I think, a business person.
But you have the tattoo.
I have,
you have the PhD tattoo.
I have my PhD tattoo.
Do you see that the same now? You refer to, I know because you've done lots of interviews. Do you still see that part of your life as being rigid, as being...
No, I think I have made peace with that chapter of my life. I think, in fact, it has shaped me. And McKinsey recruits a lot of PhD for a reason, because you have to learn problem solving. You are mostly on your own for 3 to 5 years. And that tells you something about, your character as a person. So I think I think it proves something about me. And it's mostly about determination and perseverance, because I could have walked away anytime. And I know people who have done it, and I respect that. It's not for everyone, but I am not a quitter, in fact.
Tell us about the object you've brought in.
Sure. So this is a wrapper of a bar of soap, which I spotted when I was, I think, maybe 5 or 6 years old in a supermarket with my mom, and I was mesmerized. It's called Cleopatra on it, and I was absolutely fascinated with it. And I asked my mom to buy it for me. And she says, no, we don't have the budget for this kind of soap. And I was like, fair, I get that. But one day I would really like this bar of soap. And then when I turned 30, it was part of my Christmas present that she gave me. And I've never forgotten that moment, because this is about finding a way in life. And in fact, I'm a believer that you can get anything you want, but maybe not right now. So it's about delayed gratification and patience and finding your way to what you want in life.
From what you said, and that's a beautiful story, and thank you, it sounds like there's also an element of aspiration in the object, in the consumer object that you've chosen.
Yes, because I didn't like it when she said no. I was like, I really, really want this. I felt like this was designed for me. As a little girl, I was obsessed with, princesses and sparkles and all things like that. I was like, you don't understand, this is my soap. It's like, it's got to be mine. And it became mine, but much later.
You now have...
Exactly.
Do you now have Cleopatra soap in your bathroom?
I do.
That's fantastic. So you've said you're passionate about helping women find their place in the modern world. Tell us about a time when that would have been helpful for you to get guidance about being a woman in the modern world.
For a long time, I felt like I was cooking a recipe and someone or something was going to bring the main ingredient. Something was going to come from the external world and would fix magically the recipe I was cooking, So I felt like some sort of external event or someone would come and things would fall in place magically. And I felt like as a woman, I was expected to make that happen, in fact, in a position to have control over my destiny. And
from who or what gave you that idea?
I think my parents, definitely. I think my mom felt like I was being a woman, I think there's an element of like, are you safe? Are you safe as a single woman? Are you safe as a single founder? Are you safe being in charge of all those things by yourself? So I think it comes from a place of wanting to protect me, but I think in fact it made me feel like I was never going to be safe doing what I want to do, which is not an easy
So what advice might you have given to your slightly younger self about being a woman in the modern world?
I think it's about being who you want to be and stop being a people pleaser, because it may not look like it, but I think I was constantly trying to please, because I felt like I didn't trust myself to give myself what I needed. So I felt like I had to please others to get what I want in life, in a very subtle way. So I became really good at pleasing, at
being the good girl.
Exactly. exactly. Yeah. So it was a lot of, if you please people, if you're a good girl, you're going to get what you want. And yeah, I think that's a limiting belief.
That has times when it works,
Yeah.
but times when it doesn't work.
I think it takes away people's power. If you tell a woman you have your happiness and your fulfillment will come from someone else, that's a very dangerous thing to say to someone, I believe.
And I know I've shared with you, having spent a lot of time in France, and I did a lot of my PhD studies in a French environment. One of my friends once said to me, Eloise, seduction is part of how we interact with each other in France, which was an education for me as a British person, and I realised that's something you can inhabit. You can, as a woman, as a female founder, use that modus operandi. It's not always right, it's not ever right for some people, but it's a way of being. I'm wondering what flipped for you the other way. Obviously you grew up in French culture, and not to make any stereotypes, but in the working environment, there's some ways of being female that are probably more prevalent in France than in Britain. Yeah. How have you found it the other way? You flipped from mainly being a lot of time in France to British. What have you learned? And I'm assuming it's not seduction. It's not really the British way.
I'll be honest, I think it still helps a lot. That I'm able to professionally seduce when I need. I guess my French heritage helps.
And it's I was reading about this the other day, because what does it mean? I mean, what my friend meant, my friend didn't mean in a sexual way. She meant in getting people to buy in to you.
To like you.
In some way. Yeah. Can you put a finger on it, what that means? Because we're not talking about boyfriends and girlfriends here.
No, it's about, I think it's about how you make people feel, right? It's about making people feel like they are accepted, they are welcomed, they are understood, they're supported. That's what this is about. That's
the good side of it.
Yeah.
Was there a mentor that you've had either as an entrepreneur or in your career? You were at McKinsey and then you went also to work for the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Was there a mentor that you said to yourself, I want to be like that?
I came across several people, yes, who have inspired me a lot.
Can you share any details or experiences? What was the thing that said, that thing, I want that thing?
My granddad was a big source of inspiration for me. And he would never second guess himself.
What does that mean?
If he wanted something, he would trust that he deserved it. And I think that's where I'm still working on. That's what I'm still working on. Because I feel like I would like, in fact, a bigger business and maybe more success in different dimensions of life. But I feel like sometimes I don't really truly believe that I deserve it, that I should get it. And he would have never thought that way. He beat himself up from he was cleaning, in fact he was cleaning train platforms, and then he ended up being a driver for the first high-speed train in France. So he really built himself up from a work point of view, working really hard.
So it wasn't, he didn't believe he deserved things from a sense of entitlement.
Yes.
It was from a sense of, I've worked here, rather than I just deserve it.
Yeah. He worked hard and he believed that he deserved this reward.
The fruits of his labour.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I feel like, especially as women, we are taken for granted, especially in the workplace, where you'll work hard and you'll be thanked with a, mid-level salary, and that's it. Don't ask for more.
Well, I that resonates with me when I was in a more corporate career. It always annoyed me that the women got asked to do certain jobs, certain types of labour that was less prestigious, like organising workplace functions, organising those things. That wasn't the thing that got you the bonus.
Yeah, picking up the drinks for the Christmas party and that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like it's still a bit frowned upon as a society to see a woman who wants more than average. And I've been asked, even by my family, why do you want more? And I'm like, am I asking you why your eyes are blue? You know, like that's literally how I feel. I'm like, why would I need to justify myself? I don't want more for the wrong reason. I'm not someone who wants to be incredibly wealthy and live in luxury. I think that would be fairly awful, in fact, knowing my personality. I want to do more, and I want to do more good things, in fact.
It sounds like there's an assumption if you want more, then you're wanting someone to have less.
Yes, I think so. And I think it's about, well, if you get more, then how does that make us feel? You know? So it's like are you trying to like pretend or show us that you're better than anyone else? And it's really not about this. It really isn't.
It's your own internal journey. It's not really about other people. I've got a question about the workplace drinks, because I saw on LinkedIn that you'd organised, I think, a work party in the Shard. So from possibly railing against the workplace drink organiser that's often female gendered in the workplace, as a founder and you have to make a company culture, you've organised drinks. What's the difference between the founder that creates the culture and the person that's been put on to organise the social stuff when you didn't want to? What's the difference for you?
I think for me that was a really important moment. And I wanted it to be my way for several reasons, because I wanted to bring them into my world, bring my team into my world, and share something that's meaningful with them. So we had this wonderful dinner, and the food was incredible, and the view was incredible, and I wanted to genuinely treat everyone to a good time. And I also wanted to give them a sense of, we deserve it. We deserve it. We can have it. Nothing is too big. We can dream of the best Christmas party and the biggest revenue number and becoming a #1 brand. And I feel like creating this sense of possibility and this sense of expansion is really important to me in everything I do.
You've described being ashamed of your company, Tavi, at the very, very beginning. So we're flipping right to 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
You said none of your friends knew about it. What were you ashamed of?
I felt like it wasn't good enough. As in, like, the product wasn't exciting. It's not like I'm developing electric cars or,
Describe the product, so not everybody understands.
So we've developed the biggest and best guinea pig cage in the world. So it started from realizing that guinea pig cages were way too small and animals were miserable and they were living short, cruel lives. And it wasn't going to be something I wanted for my own pets, and I realized more and more people felt that way, and I stumbled across a global demand, obviously. And I am incredibly proud of.
But now you are.
Now I am.
But what was the shame at the beginning? Was it?
I think the shame was. It's about guinea pigs, and I'm sorry to say, but people don't take guinea pigs seriously. Like
they do in Peru.
People are like, oh, they're cute little fluffy things. I feel like it's really interesting to see how society treats dogs. If your dog passes away, friends will send flowers and you might not get a day off work. But if your guinea pig passes away, no one knows you have a guinea pig. Like it's not part of the family. It's treated like a toy, right?
Okay.
So I felt like people would not understand why I even cared about them. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I would be judged for caring for them. That's the first thing. And then the second thing was we were very scrappy, like incredibly scrappy. Which I realized, right? Which I realized was needed and beautiful and exactly perfect in time. But we were so scrappy. And bear in mind, I was a McKinsey consultant.
It didn't fit with what you felt was the elite of corporate life.
Yeah, I had this McKinsey identity and I was living you
had power suits.
I had power suits, the high flyer life. I was traveling, to like glamorous hotels on a weekly basis. And on the weekend, I was building...
Hustling your business.
Hustling guinea pig cages. So I felt like not everyone was going to like understand that about me. But
you
I've
right,
always
do you
been a
think?
person of contrast.
Do you think you were
No.
right? Was it the right call?
It was the right call. It
You
was the
understood
right call.
your social
Yeah.
environment at the time.
I don't try and, it's what I was saying earlier, I don't try and justify myself. You know, like even today, like I'll give you an example. I'm doing works in my flat and I have a contractor and he comes in and I'm like, I'm gonna change the door handle. And he's like, you're paying me for it. I'm like, no, I know, but I really want to. Like, as in, it's something that, yeah,
You want to get the screwdriver out.
Yeah, I'm the person who's gonna paint. I'm still painting my walls and doing all. I'm very hands-on as a person. I need to be part of the process. Yeah.
So you said to me before that you don't think you could have grown the business or had the same type of business had you stayed in France.
Yeah.
Now there's a well-known joke that George W. Bush was supposed to have said to Tony Blair, the problem with the French is they don't have a word for entrepreneur, which is kind of silly, right? Because the entrepreneur word is French. So we know that France is a company, is a country of business. There are lots of entrepreneurs in France. It is a country where people are successful. Why don't you think it would have worked out for you?
Well, I was trying, because the business is very niche. So I needed the market to be global. I needed to have customers in the UK and in the US. So the language barrier would have been a big one to start with. And then I feel like it would have been difficult for me to recruit the talents that I needed to make this happen. So yes, and there are realities of like trading, globally. So if my customer is in the UK, I need my stock to be in the UK. So it would have been really, really difficult to do this cross-border. But also, yes, I think there's a mindset element of...
It's a different mindset.
It's a different mindset, yes. And I think London is full of hustler. Everyone in London is a hustler. So I feel like no one is kind of finding it weird or wrong that I'm trying to do that. I feel like in France people would have been like, hold on, what is the business plan? Again, I never had a business plan. The business plan is, we do our best, make it work, exactly. So I didn't want to have to kind of constantly have to prove myself. I felt like here in London, in the UK, as long as I pay the bills,
no one cares.
And that works for me. Yeah.
So with your rigorous academic background, are you now the type of entrepreneur, 9 years in, that likes planning, data, spreadsheets? Have you re-inhabited that laboratory-based rigour and structure?
To some extent, yes, but in a very specific way. So every Monday and every Thursday, I look at a very small set of metrics that will tell me about the health of the business, and I have to do it every week. It's important, and it's probably more sophisticated than most businesses, but that's all. So I'll probably look at 10 to 20 numbers a week religiously, and I do not want to look at more.
Well, that sounds pretty rigorous,
Yeah.
but also structured.
Yes.
So how do you make decisions? Do you speak to people or do you mull things over in silence?
I think mostly in silence. Yes, mostly in silence, and it's a process. So I know there's an issue and I try to collect as much. It's a very scientific process, in fact. I know there's an issue, I collect as much data as I can. I will benchmark, I will think about case studies I've seen elsewhere, and I'll do a big problem solving, mostly on the weekends, obviously.
When you've got some space.
Or in the shower.
But you're an interior, you're still
Yes.
in the life of the mind, you process yourself.
Yeah, yes. And I know when I have the solid... I'm a very instinctive person, like I know when I have a solid plan and I know when I don't.
Have you ever considered a co-founder?
Yes.
And you considered no?
I think I'm in the luxury position of not having to navigate someone else's opinions about my business.
Some people like that, right?
Yes.
Some people feel that they need to have a yin and a yang.
Yeah.
You don't...
I always felt like my closest collaborators in the team, I treat them with, a high degree of trust, high degree of confidence in their opinion as well. So I never felt like I was on my own versus everyone else. So I genuinely bring people along. So it's a very open and collaborative leadership style. I think that has helped. Otherwise, it would have been very
You do
difficult.
need to speak to people sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So is there a saying or a proverb or a song that's carried you through all of these different changes, Clem?
One day I met an entrepreneur and I said to him, it was early in the days when I was trying to scale the business for the first time. And I was fairly terrified of it failing. And I said, are you not worried that your business is going to fail? And he said, oh, no. I am worried about me not being able to be given the chance to try again if it fails. And I was like, wow, this felt like the most heroic thing I've ever heard. And I can say that I'm there now. You know, I've seen a few failures, and when things get hard, I do a couple of math in my head. I'm like, I think I have another 2 or 3 goes at this. So even if this one doesn't work, there's still at least 2 or 3 times I can try again.
So
and I think
it's your go-to calculation.
That keeps me going. Yeah, I am safe in the belief that everything is going to be fine in the end. You know, when you start unfolding, like what the worst that can happen, and then. And I'm like, no, it's fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's the optimism of the entrepreneur. You couldn't do it if you didn't have that.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be very optimistic and comfortable with risk. I think my job is about taking risk and being comfortable with it. And the more I got better at it, and the easier it's becoming.
What's the next chapter, Clem?
I would like for Cavi to become a group. I've always had this dream of not building a company, but actually supporting several businesses. So that is something that is very dear to me.
So you're working on that?
Yes.
Clem, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.